thank you, gentlemen, for joining our fireside chat of Startup Audubon Korea Expo Day 2021. I specifically like to be on this part of the program because you guys are the most successful startups that we recruit from Startup Audubon and also Startup Audubon Korea. Let's begin with the general introduction, maybe from your side. So first, it goes with Charlie from What3Word. Could you say hi to our audience of Startup Audubon Korea 2021 Expo Day and give us general information, introductory information about yourself and your company, your interests, and so on? Could you?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks very much. It's great to be here, and it's always a pleasure to work alongside Startup Audubon because of the success that it has enabled What3Words to go on to. To give a brief introduction about What3Words, we are a global addressing system that has created an easy way to communicate a precise location. And fundamentally, that's done by us dividing the world into a grid of 3 meter by 3 meter squares, and then just using words from the dictionary. Every single one of those squares will have a completely unique 3-word address. And this is I mentioned, a global addressing system that's now available in 50 different languages. So people around the world can easily communicate exactly where something is, be that a delivery drop-off point, a car navigation destination, or a remote location where they might have had an accident and need to communicate to the emergency services. So that's a brief introduction to What3Words. And my specific role at the company is I manage the automotive partnerships at What3Words.
Thank you for your beautiful introduction. And what about you, Captain Hanbin Lee from Seoul Robotics?
Yeah, thanks for having us, Vince. At Seoul Robotics, we do LiDAR-based perception software. So basically, when 3D sensors LiDAR provides point cloud information, we use deep learning to analyze what they are so that we can identify different type of object within the sensor data we see. Currently, we supply software to OEMs and smart city application, robotics application. So wherever the 3D sensor goes, they need software, and that's where we go. We provide this perception layer, an actionable item, so that whether vehicle can navigate safely, or it gives better analytics for smart city applications, or for Mercedes-Benz, we can understand better where the crowds and the customers are on the show floors. We are glad to be here to talk more about us and how Mercedes-Benz and this program help us to grow.
So I'm more glad to have you guys here. So thank you. So let me start with some soft questions for our beginning. So maybe I can ask you, what's your stories? What's your experience with the Startup Audubon Korea? Maybe I can start with Seoul Robotics first. What is your company's relationship or history, stories that have with Startup Audubon Korea? Did it help growing your company in the business field? Or how did the experience was like to you?
Yeah, so it's been wonderful. Since we got elected, we were able to do first POC, and now we're doing second mini project. But just having a Mercedes-Benz as one of our client lists of paid POC is a massive for our company brand image. Currently, the project size is not as massive, but it does have scalability. Because Mercedes-Benz is currently looking into adapting our system for various use cases, especially starting from the showroom analytics for understanding where the customers are spending their time in the show floors. So it's been I'm surprised that it's already been a year that we've been part of the Startup Audubon program, but we're excited to see what we can do more in the future with Mercedes-Benz through the Startup Audubon.
That's really fantastic. And now to Charlie, you are one of the only successful startups scouted from Startup Audubon headquarters. How's your company's relationship? How's the history, and how do you feel about it? Did it help you success in the business field?
Yeah, absolutely. So What Three Words went through the second Startup Autobahn program. So that was back in early 2017. And it was a really, really valuable way to meet the right people at large companies like Mercedes-Benz, and get in front of those kind of ambitious innovators in large corporate organizations that, when you're working in a startup, it's difficult to fight your way into these huge organizations, and a program like Startup Autobahn really accelerates that process, because it gathers the people that are most open to the innovation that startup brings to a large organization. So it was very useful, and allowed us to work through the process of proof of concept and getting it live in the vehicle much quicker than we would have ever done before without the program.
That sounds really good. It seems like Startup Autobahn really helped you bringing your solutions and services into Mercedes-Benz cars, and that's really a big part of it. And I know that you are currently expanding your business fields to other countries, like in Korea, because I see many news and some articles talking about What Three Words in Korean, which is really fantastic. So why don't you tell us about your company's status? How's the business going in Korea? How did it start?
Absolutely.
And where do you see it right now? And how's it feel like?
Absolutely, yeah. So you're right. So because What Three Words is a global system, we have been used around the world ever since we've been founded to help people. But really working with businesses in Korea, it's over the last couple of years that's really grown. So we had a marquee partnership with Kakao Map a couple of years ago, and that began our real focus on Korea as a target market for us. And then last year, we launched Korean voice entry with Mercedes-Benz. So that's the fourth language that you can now enter a voice three-word address into a Mercedes-Benz in. And again, that gave us another presence in the market, and really expanded the use cases that we already have in Korea. And I'm pleased to say that in the last couple of weeks, we've launched a direct-to-consumer television ad campaign and awareness campaign about What Three Words in Korea. So really? we kind of see those as real highlights going through the awareness in the market, and we're looking to grow our presence in Korea from these moments.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, thank you. And Tucson Robotics, I know you are really being successful in outside Korea, not just in Korea. How did all your global journey started? How's your companies currently doing outside Korea with different companies, different regions? Can you tell us some about it?
Yeah. So we got a global location in Munich, Silicon Valley, South Carolina, and Detroit, wherever the automotive business is. We're trying to stay close there. A majority of our business really comes from Germany at this point, and the second largest market for robotics is in the US. Again, we are, unlike many Korean startups, we started from focusing on the overseas market, and now we do have some traction in Korea, slowly, one step at a time. So again, having a global players, global OEM name like Mercedes-Benz with our client base definitely helps. Sorry, there's a mosquito near. In December, how crazy is that? Sorry.
Is there a mosquito?
So yeah, I am surprised to see mosquitoes right now in December. Yeah. So it helps in every way to have even if it's just POC, have those as a client list on our belt. Helps us to further expand our business abroad. It gives confidence for our newer clients that we are not just a random startup that came out of nowhere. We do have a fairly strong traction and trust among the OEMs and tier ones globally.
Do you know that Startup Autobahn in headquarters has lots of corporates in European regions? Do you see any potential business opportunity with those partners, or if you do not know about the list of partners in headquarters, but do you have any European corporates there to work with?
Yeah. So we do have a Munich entity, and all European projects or incomes are tied to the Munich entity. So we can directly work with a European startup Autobahn or European corporation with no problem. So that they don't have to issue a PO directly to the Korean entity. Everything can be done within Europe. And we also have actually talked with the startup Autobahn Mercedes-Benz in Germany a couple of years ago. But we can probably tap into that connection maybe later on.
And from a LiDAR's point of view, you guys started with the idea of implementing LiDAR, not just in the cars, but also in different regions and different locations. And from that point, I think I see your business are growing quite actively in varieties. How did you come up with those ideas? Not a direct intuitive idea of putting LiDAR for like autonomous driving, like everyone else do. But how did you come up with those different branches of ideas, and how is it going?
Yeah, so essentially we started from trying to make the LiDAR perception software for vehicles, which is fairly difficult, but also the market tends to move slower because putting a LiDAR into a vehicle is a heavy business. It takes a long cycle. When we had the technology ready, we had many different industries reaching out to us for different use cases because of the benefits that the LiDAR-based computer vision solution provides over the other sensor modality. And so right now, again, we are providing our solution for indoor application to understand the crowd analytics. But one of the hottest sector right now is in smart city, where they're installing these sensors in the intersections to make the traffic and traffic control more efficient. As well as right now, we're working on the latest project, which is basically having the infrastructure do all the perception and wireless control to navigate, make the vehicles on the parking lot autonomous, which we call autonomous infrastructure. But basically, how we have achieved it is telling the customer that we're very good with the LiDAR perception software. We can do any kind of project that you can have. And we kind of started as the kind of muscle for hire for any different type of LiDAR project. And from that point on, we were able to kind of hone down different market segments, whether that be vehicles or on the infrastructure, to kind of fuel our growth for Star Robotics.
That's fantastic. And speaking of which, I also know from What3Words website, you guys business fields are huge. It's filled with lots of varieties. I think your original idea is having a disk grid that get better address solutions in worldwide. But now I see in your website that your business are expanding to logistics, tourism, and all this savior relief work out in many countries. And how do you see potentials in growing so different kinds of business from What3Words' point of view, Charlie?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I mean, What3Words has a use and a benefit of use in any area of business where a location needs to be communicated. So you're right. We, in the last couple of years with the COVID pandemic, we've seen a real surge in use by e-commerce and delivery logistics companies because the ability to enter an accurate location has a real effect on improving delivery efficiency. So when companies are being overwhelmed with orders, they're able to fulfill those orders more efficiently, more effectively using What3Words. Another area that we've really seen grow over the last couple of years is within the emergency services. So an ambulance or police response will quite often be to an area that's quite hard to describe. And they're using 3-word address, which is easy to communicate from person to person, as well as being accurate. We've really seen an uptake and a benefit in improving the response time of the emergency services to that accurate location. In terms of how that happens, as mentioned, there are some industries where the ability to enter a precise location is obvious. So car navigation being one, and delivery and logistics being another. But it's more through community use and understanding the challenges that people face or the frustrations that they face with traditional addresses that brings out these new use cases. Another good example is increasingly being used within infrastructure companies. So if people are dealing with large sites or maybe assets around a country that haven't got a traditional address, what 3 words is a really useful way to mark those assets within infrastructure. So new use cases are popping up all the time.
I see that. How many offices out of UK do you guys have? Probably too many.
Yeah, so just one office. Our headquarters is in London, and then we have people based in local markets. So we have a team based out in Mongolia, in Ulaanbaatar. And actually, Mongolia uses what 3 words as an official addressing system. So you can write someone a letter using just a 3-word address. And that's particularly useful in Mongolia, which is such a vast country.
Yeah, giant landscape.
Giant landscape and a nomadic population. So people can settle in a certain place. And because that will already have a 3-word address, it's easy for them to say where they want their parcel delivered.
That sounds really fantastic. Thank you. And maybe next to Saw Robotics, Captain. I can ask this questions as a Korean startup innovator's point of view, because you are being so successful in not just in Korea, but also other markets, other countries. What would be some difficulties that when you enter different regions, different markets as a global startup scenes and the lead player in that field?
So I think it's a very simple barrier, actually, is the language and the culture. If you know the language and culture, I think the international market is actually far easier to tackle than Korean industry, because Korean industry, in the Korean sense, the wallet is difficult to open, and it means that getting into the Korean cycle, it actually takes a lot more effort and a lot more time. While internationally, opening a wallet is actually not as difficult as Korean market if they see a clear value. But often the limitation of the Korean grown startup is that the leadership or the business folks is not really well trained and versed in the local language or local culture. If you speak English, well, that solves about 80% of the time. But then there's slight cultural differences in each region, whether it be US or Germany or France or UK or in Japan, that if you know it just slightly well enough, it really gets the projects and the scale up gets going. And easiest way to solve this issue is hire a local business person that knows the market of that local culture, and then you can resolve this. And it's often, I get asked a lot by the German companies that they're so surprised to see a Korean CEO speaks English so well, and that kind of speaks to Korean companies that we should invest more to figure out more international talents in the business world, especially to make that bridge between the customers and international customers and the local product that has been built in Korea.
If I remember correctly, you were planning to come to Korea last year, right? And that was canceled. Or
yes, many plans, but we live in a world where plans can change at the last minute because of restrictions. But yeah, I'm still yet to make it out to Korea, but I would love to at some point.
Yeah, sure. Speaking of which, since we have some times left, I believe so. Before getting into the last questions, maybe I can ask short questions to you guys beforehand. So how did COVID-19 affect your company's business, particularly starting from what 3 words?
Yeah, I think in terms of how the business operated, it didn't have that much of an effect because we're a tech company. We were well set up to move to digital working, and so operationally we were fine. I think what it did change was the way that we approach certain businesses. So I mentioned earlier that suddenly with the COVID pandemic, there was a real increase in e-commerce, and that put a lot of pressure on the logistics, supply chain, and delivery industries. So we kind of pivoted our focus to work out how we could help those businesses. And that's not only the big players that in the global markets, but also working with maybe local businesses that didn't have any delivery operation at all. But if there's suddenly a restaurant that can't serve customers in the restaurant, they might want to serve home meals. And What Two Words could help with people, even with just their own van driving around and delivering to people. So there was a real successful uptake of working with those local businesses and pivoting to a more e-commerce led model.
Yeah, I think that's really fantastic because you are one of the few who takes this situation as an opportunity for business-wise. So I think I'm being a little jealous for that.
Yeah, and another great example, actually, was when vaccines were being administered or people needed to get COVID tests. We actually worked with local hospitals and vaccine centers so people could find exactly where they need to go. Because if you have suspected COVID, you don't want to be going to an entrance that's meant for people who may be in the hospital for another reason and risking infection.
That's really point. That's the really point. Thank you. And how did COVID affect you? So robotics, did it help? Did it not so help?
Yeah, and we're on the greener side of the COVID because our revenue, I think, grew up by quadruple compared to last year. Our teammate, we grew the team. Thing is, though, I haven't really seen the people that I work with face to face. Half of them I never met in person. They're all in US, they're all in Europe. So we had to kind of adapt to the kind of new norm that most of the time, I'm not gonna ever meet this person ever meet this person in person, but learning how to operate on an online basis. The second benefit we had was since a lot of people are not traveling and the roads and the infrastructure not being used, suddenly all the government around the world decided to just upgrade the infrastructure they have to make this a little bit smarter, right? Install radars and improve the lightings and put some lidars there to see how it works, make that intersection a little bit more safer, and make certain indoor stores are now, not many people come to stores anyway. So might as well use this opportunity to invest into the infrastructure, make it smarter. And this is why our revenue was quadrupled compared to last year, largely driven from the infrastructure-based LiDAR solution that we provided to various clients around the world. So we've benefited significantly. And if it wasn't for COVID, I think actually our revenue would have, if there weren't COVID, I think the revenue would be smaller than what we have this year. So we actually benefited from it. Yeah.
You are one of the few. I think that's because you guys are so like tech experts and getting already ready. You have really finite structures in your teams, and you could overcome whatever comes to you as a difficulty. I think that's really something our audience and Korean startups should be inspired of. So thank you. All right, this is my last, not a question. So we're almost ending here. So I would like you to share your last thoughts or comments to our audience here. We have many corporate representatives and also government officials with us today. So if you want to make any last words to them, it would be really appreciated. Why don't we start with Hanbin Lee from Seoul Robotics?
Yeah, so I think it's a golden opportunity that the Korean awareness of the Korean entities and Korean cultures are becoming popular, and the foreign international communities are adaptive, acceptable of what we have, what we build in Korea. And so I think we should utilize every opportunity like what we have here, a startup Audubon, where Mercedes-Benz is looking at the Korean ecosystem to see which one they can adapt globally, right? So again, I think you'll be surprised how acceptable and perhaps even easier the international market is compared to what we have in the Korean market. So use this opportunity well and show them what we have. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And Charlie, please take your opportunity. We have I don't know, we might have your potential business partners here, so take your chance.
Yeah, I mean, just echoing what was said, I think it's a really good opportunity of bringing together like-minded individuals, on both sides, so that you have the innovation and the product that's brought out from the startups, and then the platform and the ambitious innovators in these large corporates, and it's a unique opportunity for that bringing together to move something forward quickly, and with the right support.
That's really good. Thank you very much, you two gentlemen, today for being us here and also remotely to Startup Audubon Expo Day. We are really appreciating your support and your interest in talks and insights and ideas. And yep, so that will be the end. Our discussion is over now. So thank you.
Thank you.